The community hall was packed with at least 120 people when my son-in-law stood up and cleared his throat. I was sitting at the head table, uncomfortable in the sport jacket my daughter had insisted I wear, watching Derek adjust his designer tie. The mayor had just finished presenting me with some plaque for 45 years of service to Havenport, and I was ready to sit down and let someone else have the microphone. But Derek had other plans. "Before we continue," he said, his voice carrying across the hall with that confidence only money can buy, "I think we all need to acknowledge the elephant in the room." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "My father-in-law is 67 years old, living alone." In that he paused, looking around at the crowd. "Well, let's call it what it is. A shack on a cliff, with no proper heating, no safety rails, and stairs that should have been condemned 10 years ago." I felt my face flush. Around me, people shifted in their seats. My daughter Rachel reached for my hand under the table, but I could see the conflict in her eyes. She'd been listening to Derek for months now. "Rachel and I have tried to talk to him," Derek continued, "but James is stubborn. So tonight, in front of all of you, his friends, his community, I'm announcing that we've found him a place. A beautiful facility in Vancouver, 24-hour care, all the amenities. We're moving him next month." The room went silent. I sat there, my hands gripping the edge of the table, feeling 120 pairs of eyes on me. This was supposed to be my night. 45 years. And my son-in-law had just announced my entire future without asking me a damn thing. That's when old Tom Bradshaw, who'd been sitting at the back near the bar, stood up. "Derek," he said, his voice rough from 40 years of fishing, "you do know James owns half this town, right?" I should probably back up and explain how we got here. My name is James Mitchell, and I've lived in Havenport, British Columbia, my entire life. It's one of those coastal towns that tourism forgot too far north to be trendy, too small to matter to the cruise ships. Population hovers around 3,000, most of them born here, most of them planning to die here. We've got one grocery store, 2 churches, a hardware shop, and enough fishing boats to make it smell like the ocean, no matter where you stand. I raised my daughter alone here. My wife Sarah died when Rachel was only 6 cancer, the kind that moves fast. One day we were planning Rachel's 7th birthday party, and 6 months later I was a widower with a little girl who didn't understand why mommy wasn't coming home. I did my best. I ran a small construction company, nothing fancy, Mitchell and Sons. Even though I only ever had the one daughter. We built houses, fixed roofs, did renovations. I had 8 guys working for me at the peak, good men who showed up on time and did honest work. I taught Rachel to swing a hammer before she could ride a bike. Took her to every job site. Let her wear a little pink hard hat I'd special ordered from Vancouver. She grew up thinking we were just getting by. And in a way, we were. The company made enough to keep food on the table and pay for her university, but we never flashed it around. I drove the same Ford pickup I'd bought in 1995. Our house, the shack Derek loved to mention, was the old family place my grandfather had built in 1947. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, wood-burning stove, and a view of the Pacific that would make grown men weep. It sat on a cliff, yeah. The stairs were steep, true. But I'd rebuilt them 3 times over the years, and they were solid as the day I'd first hammered them in. The house itself was small, maybe 900 square feet, but it was paid for. And it was mine. Rachel left for university at 18, came back with a teaching degree at 22, and taught elementary school in Havenport for the next 11 years. She was happy, or at least I thought she was. She had her own little apartment above the bookstore, dated a few local guys, seemed content with the quiet life. Then she met Derek at a conference in Toronto. He was a real estate developer, she told me. 39 years old, never married, drove a BMW, wore suits that cost more than my monthly grocery bill. He was from old money, Rachel said, whatever that meant. His father owned hotels, his mother sat on charity boards, his brother was some kind of finance guy in New York. I knew we were in trouble the first time he visited Havenport. It was a Saturday in June, beautiful weather, and Rachel brought him to the house for lunch. I'd made sandwiches, nothing fancy, and we sat on the deck overlooking the water. Derek spent the entire time on his phone, barely looking up, commenting on the quaint view and asking if we had real restaurants in town. "Your place has good bones," he said at one point, glancing at the house like he was doing me a favor by acknowledging it existed. "But the location, James. Do you have any idea what waterfront property is worth these days?" "It's worth exactly what I paid for it," I said. "Nothing. My grandfather built it." He laughed. "That's not how real estate works." Rachel changed the subject, but I saw the way he looked at the house. Like it was something to be fixed, flipped, sold. Like it was an opportunity instead of a home. They got married 6 months later. Small ceremony, just family and a few friends. I paid for the whole thing, even though Derek's parents could have bought the venue 10 times over. Rachel wanted to get married in Havenport, and I wanted to give her that. $22,000 for a wedding with 40 guests. But seeing her smile made it worth every penny. The trouble started about 3 months after they moved in together. Rachel and Derek bought a condo in Vancouver, 2 bedrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows, parking spot that cost more than most people's cars. Derek wanted Rachel to quit teaching in Havenport and find something in the city. She resisted at first, but eventually she gave notice. Told me she'd visit every month. The visits got less frequent. Every month became every 6 weeks, then every 2 months. Derek was always busy, she said. Projects, meetings, investors. But she sounded tired on the phone, and when she did visit, she spent half the time apologizing for Derek not being able to make it. Then, last November, Derek showed up at my door without Rachel. Said he was in the area looking at properties and thought he'd stop by to check on me. "You're alone out here," he said, looking around my kitchen like it was a crime scene. "What if you fell? What if you had a heart attack? No one would know for hours." "I'm 67, not 97, I told him. "And I've got neighbors." "Your nearest neighbor is half a kilometer away." He pulled out his phone, started showing me pictures. "Look, Rachel and I have been talking. There's this facility in Vancouver, right near our place. Assisted living. Beautiful grounds, full medical staff, activities every day. You'd love it." "I'm not interested in assisted living." "James, be reasonable. You're getting older. This house is falling apart. This house is fine. And you're isolated out here. What do you even do all day?" I could have told him about the boat I was restoring in the garage, about the fishing trips with Tom and the other guys from town, about the workshop I'd built in the basement where I was making a rocking chair for Rachel's future kids, about the volunteer work I did at the community center, teaching teenagers basic carpentry. Instead, I said, I live my life, same as always. Derek left that day looking frustrated, but I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Over the next few months, Rachel started calling more often, but the conversations were different. She'd ask about my health, my safety, whether I'd thought about moving closer to them. She'd mention articles she'd read about seniors living alone, about falls and accidents and isolation. "Derek's worried about you," she'd say. "Derek barely knows me." "He cares, Dad. We both do." I wanted to tell her that caring and controlling weren't the same thing, but I bit my tongue. She was my daughter, and she was trying to navigate being caught between her husband and her father. I didn't want to make it harder. Then in March, Derek showed up again, this time with a folder. "I've done some research," he said, sitting at my kitchen table, uninvited. "The average cost of home maintenance for a property this age is around $1,500 a month. Add in property taxes, insurance, utilities, you're looking at close to $30,000 a year just to stay here. Does that make sense at your age? I manage fine, but you could do more than manage. If you sold this place, even in its current condition, you'd get at least $400,000. Put that in a retirement account. Move somewhere more practical." "I don't want to move." "You'd have financial security and better care." "I don't need care. I need you to stop treating me like I'm incompetent." He leaned back, studying me like I was a difficult client. "I'm not trying to offend you, James. I'm trying to help. Rachel's worried sick about you out here. Is that what you want? To make your daughter worry?" That's when I knew he was good, really good. He'd taken my greatest weakness, my love for Rachel, and turned it into a weapon. If I refused to move, I was being selfish. If I pushed back, I was making my daughter's life harder. He'd boxed me into a corner where any resistance looked like stubbornness. But I'm a stubborn man. Always have been. Tell Rachel I'm fine, I said. And tell her she's welcome here any time. Alone. Derek's smile turned cold. That's short-sighted. Maybe, but it's my short sight. He laughed, and I thought I'd made my position clear. But Derek wasn't used to people saying no. In his world, everything had a price, and everyone eventually came around to the logical solution. He just needed to apply more pressure. The pressure came in April, when Rachel called crying. "Dad, please," she said. "Derek showed me statistics. Falls, heart attacks, house fires, seniors living alone are at such high risk. I can't sleep at night thinking about you out there." "Rachel, I'm healthy. Dr. Park just gave me a full checkup. Blood pressure's perfect. Heart's strong. But what if something happens? What if you fall in the workshop? What if the stairs finally give out? The stairs are solid. I rebuilt them myself." "You're 67. You shouldn't be rebuilding stairs." That's when I realized Derek had gotten to her. Really gotten to her. My independent, strong-willed daughter, who used to defend me against everyone, was now reciting his talking points word for word. "Come visit," I said. "Come see the house. See how I'm doing. You haven't been here since Christmas." "I know. I'm sorry. Work has been crazy, and Derek's been so busy with this new development project. Come alone, just for a weekend." There was a long pause. Derek won't like that. "Since when do you need his permission to visit your father?" Another pause. "I'll try." She didn't come. Instead, Derek started calling. Not to argue, but to check in. How was I feeling? Did I need help with anything? Had I thought more about their suggestion? "It's not a suggestion if you keep pressuring me," I finally told him. "I'm not pressuring. I'm persistent. There's a difference. Not from where I'm sitting." "James, let me be direct. You're being selfish. Rachel is stressed about this. Her work is suffering. Our marriage is suffering. All because you won't consider a perfectly reasonable solution to a very real problem. The only problem I have is a son-in-law who won't mind his own business. You are my business. You're my wife's father. That makes you family, whether you like it or not." I hung up. It was rude, but I'd had enough. That's when things escalated. Derek started showing up unannounced, sometimes with Rachel, sometimes without. He'd walk through my house, pointing out problems: a loose floorboard here, a water stain there, a window that stuck. He brought contractors, had them give me free estimates on repairs I never asked for. $23,000 to fix the roof properly, he'd say. $15,000 for new windows. Another $10,000 for updated electrical. "James, you're sitting on a money pit." "It's my money pit. It's not sustainable." What he didn't know, what nobody knew except my lawyer and accountant, was that the money pit was just the beginning. See, back in 2005, I sold my construction company. Not because I had to, but because a developer from Seattle made me an offer I'd have been stupid to refuse. $2.8 million for Mitchell & Sons, including the equipment, the client list, and the Mitchell name. I took it, invested most of it, and lived off the returns while I figured out what to do next. What I did next was buy land. Lots of it. Havenport was dying in the mid-2000s. The fishing industry was struggling, young people were leaving, property values were dropping. The town council was desperate to keep things afloat, and several old families were selling off land they'd held for generations. I bought 12 parcels over 3 years. Waterfront property, mostly. The old cannery site, the abandoned marina, a chunk of forest on the north end that overlooked the bay. I paid cash, kept the transactions quiet, didn't tell anyone except Tom Bradshaw, who helped me with some of the negotiations. "What are you going to do with all this?" Tom had asked me. "Keep it from being turned into condos." "That's not a business plan, James. It's enough of one for me." By 2012, I owned roughly 40% of Havenport's waterfront. Not because I wanted to develop it, but because I wanted to make sure nobody else did either. I'd watched too many coastal towns turn into playgrounds for rich tourists, pushing out the locals who'd built the place. I wasn't going to let that happen to Havenport. The land sat there, quietly appreciating. I paid the taxes, kept it maintained, and didn't think much about it. Every few years, some developer would approach the town about building a resort or a marina complex. And every few years, the projects would fall through because I owned the land they needed and I wasn't selling. Derek had no idea about any of this. To him, I was just a retired contractor, living in a rundown house, too stubborn to accept help. He saw what he wanted to see, an obstacle to overcome, a problem to solve. Which brings us back to the community hall and the awards dinner. The mayor had organized the event to celebrate Havenport's 125th anniversary. They were honoring 12 people who'd made significant contributions to the town over the years. I was on the list because of the company, because of the buildings I'd built, the roofs I'd fixed, the kids I'd taught to use power tools safely. Rachel had driven up for the event. Derek had taken time off from his busy schedule to attend. They'd arrived that afternoon, and Derek had spent an hour walking around town, photographing buildings, taking notes on his phone. "This place has potential," he'd said at dinner before the ceremony. "With the right investment, the right vision, you could turn Havenport into something really special." "It's already special," I'd said. "I mean profitable." We'd left it at that and headed to the hall. I'd put on the sport jacket Rachel brought me, she said. The flannel shirt I wanted to wear wasn't appropriate, and sat through speeches about the town's history, its challenges, its resilience. When the mayor called my name, I stood up, accepted the plaque, said thank you, and was ready to sit down. That's when Derek stood up and hijacked my moment. Before we continue, I think we all need to acknowledge the elephant in the room. I watched him work the crowd, saw people nodding along, saw Rachel's face turn red. He painted a picture of me as a tragic figure, too proud to accept help, too stubborn to see reason. He made it sound like moving me to Vancouver was an act of mercy, like he and Rachel were saving me from myself. "We've found him a place," he said. "A beautiful facility in Vancouver, 24-hour care, all the amenities. We're moving him next month." The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. Then Tom Bradshaw stood up. "Derek," he said, his voice rough from 40 years of fishing. "You do know James owns half this town, right?" Derek's smile froze. "Excuse me? The old cannery site? James owns it. The marina property? James owns it. That shack you keep insulting? It sits on 3 acres of prime waterfront that's worth, what, James, 2 million? 3? I didn't answer. I was watching Derek's face cycle through confusion, disbelief, and the dawning realization that he'd made a very public mistake. Tom kept going. "And that construction company he sold back in '05? He didn't sell it because he needed money. He sold it because someone offered him close to $3 million for it. Whole town knows that." That wasn't entirely true. Most of the town had no idea what I'd sold the company for, but Tom was on a roll. "So when you stand up here and talk about moving James to Vancouver to take care of him, what you're really saying is you want to get him out of that house so you can sell it. And probably sell the land too, knowing your type." The room erupted, not in applause, but in angry muttering. These were people who'd lived in Havenport their whole lives, who'd watched developers try to buy up the coast, who'd seen other towns lose their character to resort complexes and vacation rentals. Derek's face had gone from tan to pale to red. That's not, I didn't know about any land." "Clearly," said the mayor, who was standing at the podium looking like she'd just watched a car crash. "Perhaps we should—" "I want to hear from James," someone shouted. It was Susan Park, the doctor's wife, who ran the bookstore. "James, is this true? About the land?" All eyes turned to me. I stood up slowly, adjusted my jacket, and looked around the room. These were my people. Some I'd built houses for. Some I'd taught their kids carpentry. Some had been at Sarah's funeral, had brought casseroles, and sat with Rachel while I fell apart in the workshop. "It's true," I said quietly. "I own 12 parcels of waterfront property in and around Havenport. Bought them between 2005 and 2008. I don't advertise it because I'm not looking to develop them or sell them. I bought them to keep them from being developed." "How much land are we talking about?" someone asked. "Roughly 40 acres total, including the cannery site, the old marina, and a few smaller lots along the northern bay." "Jesus, James," Tom said, grinning. I knew about some of it, but 40 acres? I shrugged. Seemed like the thing to do at the time. Derek had found his voice again. Rachel, did you know about this? My daughter was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. No. Dad, why didn't you tell me? Because it didn't matter. Still doesn't. I live my life the way I want to live it. The land is just land. It'll be yours someday, when I'm gone, and you can do whatever you want with it. But while I'm alive, it's mine, and I'm keeping it exactly the way it is. But the house, Derek said, his voice desperate now. You said it yourself. It needs work. I said it needs maintenance. Every house does. But I've got the money to maintain it, and I've got the skills to do most of it myself. What I don't have is any interest in moving to Vancouver to make your life easier. The room was dead silent now. Derek looked like he wanted to disappear. Rachel looked like she was going to cry. The mayor looked like she was trying to figure out how to salvage the rest of the evening. Derek, I said, my voice level, I appreciate your concern for my well-being. I really do. But I don't need saving. I need you to respect my choices and stop treating me like I'm incompetent. I'm 67 years old. I'm healthy, I'm financially secure, and I'm happy. If that's not enough for you, that's your problem, not mine. I sat down. For a moment, nobody moved. Then someone started clapping. I'm not sure who, maybe Tom, maybe Susan. But it spread through the room until most of the hall was applauding. Not for me, I don't think, but for the principle of it. For the idea that you don't get to decide how someone else lives their life, no matter how much you think you know better. Derek grabbed Rachel's hand and pulled her toward the exit. She looked back at me once, her expression unreadable, and then they were gone. The mayor cleared her throat and tried to get the evening back on track, but the energy had shifted. People kept coming up to me, shaking my hand, asking questions about the land. Some were genuinely curious. Others were clearly calculating what it meant for the town's future. I left early, drove home in my old truck, and sat on the deck watching the moon on the water. The house was quiet. The stairs creaked when I climbed them, same as always. The wood stove needed cleaning. The porch railing could use a fresh coat of paint, but it was mine, and that was enough. Rachel called the next morning. She was crying. Dad, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Derek told me you were struggling financially, that you were too proud to ask for help. Rachel, I've never struggled financially in my life. I know that now. But he showed me articles about seniors living alone, statistics about falls and accidents, and I was scared. I didn't want to lose you the way we lost Mom. My throat tightened. You're not going to lose me. Not for a long time. Derek said you were being stubborn and unreasonable. He made it sound like we were helping you. He made it sound that way because he believed it. Men like Derek, they think they know what's best for everyone. They don't listen. They don't ask. They just decide and expect everyone to fall in line. I should have listened to you. I should have visited more. I should have... You're here now. That's what matters. She drove up the next weekend, alone. We spent 2 days walking around the property, talking about everything we should have talked about months ago. I showed her the land records, the investment accounts, the plans I'd made for the properties after I was gone. Why didn't you ever tell me? She asked. Because I didn't want money to define our relationship. I raised you to value hard work and honest living, not bank statements. The money was always there as a safety net, but I wanted you to build your own life first. Derek's going to be furious when he finds out. Derek's going to have to deal with it. Question is, are you going to stay with him? She was quiet for a long time. I don't know. He lied to me. He manipulated me. He tried to control you. That's not who I want to be married to. That's your decision to make. But Rachel, whatever you decide, know that I'm here. The door is always open. This house, this life, it's yours whenever you want it. She filed for divorce 3 months later, moved back to Havenport, got her old teaching job back, found an apartment above the bookstore again. Derek fought it at first, but when his lawyer found out about the land holdings and realized there was no way he was getting any of it, he settled quickly. I still live in the house, on the cliff. The stairs are still steep, but they're solid. I rebuilt them again last summer, just to be sure. I'm working on that rocking chair for Rachel's future kids, though she says she's in no rush to have any. The land stays as it is, undeveloped, untouched, a buffer against the kind of change that would turn Havenport into somewhere else. The town council asks me every few years if I'd consider selling, and every few years I say no. Some people call me stubborn. Some call me eccentric. Tom Bradshaw calls me the silent guardian of Havenport, which makes me sound more important than I am. But really, I'm just a man who knows what matters. And it's not the money or the land or the title to the properties. It's the view from the deck, the sound of the waves on the rocks, the satisfaction of building something with your own hands and knowing it'll last. Derek was wrong about a lot of things, but he was right about one. I am stubborn. I'm stubborn about living life on my own terms, about protecting the places and people I love, about not letting anyone tell me who I should be or how I should live. And if that makes me difficult, well, I can live with that. I'm doing just fine.